have a big enough why, because I worked harder than anybody that I've ever seen. I went to crazy lengths and worked insane hours and didn't sleep and, sacrificed everything for a large period of years to get the business to where it is. And every single time that I'd think about going to sleep or think about quitting or think about, chilling out, it was always that why niggling in the back of my head. Like, I need to do this so that I can make the band a success.
You're listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. This is your seat at the table. Welcome to the show. Our guest today, Charlie Wallace, has managed to do what so many others were not able to figure out: make millions playing guitar. In this conversation with Roland, you're about to hear how the founder of Guitar Mastery Method forged a path to success and the principles that have enabled him to live his dream. Before we get stuck in, would you please take a moment to hit subscribe, and don't forget to head over to businesslunchpodcast.com to sign up for our emails and exclusive opportunities with Roland. So without further ado, here's Roland and Charlie Wallace.
Hey everybody, Roland Frasier here. I want to welcome my friend Charlie Wallace to the show today. Charlie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Roland. Great to be here.
Do me a favor. You have such a cool business. Would you tell everybody you have two businesses now. So would you just kind of share a little bit about what you're doing, and then we'll go into kind of the background and where things are going?
Absolutely. So I teach guitar lessons online. I've got a company that does that, and got a bunch of amazing instructors from around the world. It's called Guitar Mastery Method. So we sell, digital products, one-time courses, and also, like a VIP club subscription where people can get group live lessons from instructors around the world. And I've also got my band, Black Smoke Trigger, which obviously it's in the music business. So I've got the business side of the band. And between the two of those things, they keep me very, very busy.
And you're doing, I don't know if you want to say your revenues, but it's millions and millions and millions of dollars a year, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, tell us, when did this start? Tell me what was your first entrepreneurial adventure? Was it straight into this guitar, or was it doing something else first?
The first time I ever thought about making money online was when I was really young, and my mom was on the computer and she was complaining about this thing called spam. And I was like, what is spam? And she says, it's people send emails and they try to make money. And I was like, well, do they? And she was like, well, they must do if they're sending it. And so as a young kid, I went on the internet and I was like, how to make money with spam. I very quickly found that apparently spam is not a very good thing to be doing, and I should have no part in doing it. But I did find information that there obviously were people online making money legitimately. So that was what piqued my interest in it. And then,
when is this in time, roughly?
This would have been like 2003, 2004. Okay. So
okay, cool.
Kind of around the time I started actually playing guitar. And so when I was looking online, I remember like the Google Cash thing was happening, the, article marketing was huge. Yeah. And then so I thought, right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in there, create an article website, put AdSense ads on it. I'll make millions, and then I'll create a search engine that's going to compete with Google, because Google looks boring. You go there, it's only got one thing to do, it's boring as. Mm-hmm. And so I literally spent a long time learning how to build static HTML websites by reverse engineering them. Wow. And then so in doing that, I definitely learned a lot, and also made absolutely no money, because it's like I did literally make a search engine, but how on earth do you actually advertise that to anybody, especially with the negative budget that I had as like a 14, 15-year-old.
What were your articles about on your article site?
It was literally about like everything. I would just literally grab articles and then, just basically read a whole bunch of them and then, flip them and just try to get as many as possible, but it was just one of those things that was just impossible to get traffic to,
Right.
And then so from there, I realized that I tried to create something to sell to everybody. And because of that, I could sell it to nobody. And then so I ended up creating an ebook on a whole bunch of guitar exercises.
Had you been playing for a while at that point?
Yeah, and so I'd been playing for a few years, but ate, slept, and breathed guitar at that point, and had essentially forgotten about school. I would literally fall asleep at school because I was up all night playing guitar. And then so I would play guitar just nonstop, and developed quite a fast picking speed at a really young age just by doing these exercises. And I played basketball for years before it, so I just put like the passion that I had for that into playing these guitar exercises.
Yeah.
So I put those into an ebook, and so I put that online and just sort of passively made money, or just had that on ClickBank. Passively made money just through organic traffic and just things like article marketing throughout the next 5 sort of years. And one day, I sort of was like a 20-year-old, went to the supermarket and I had like $2.50 in my wallet, and I needed to get like cat food for me and my girlfriend at the time. I needed to get some petrol. I needed to get some toilet paper. It was just not going to work. And so that was the turning point. And also the turning point for me was that throughout that time, I was really trying to get the band off the ground, and had the dream of making the band a really big, successful band. Yeah. Realized that just simply was not going to happen with $2.50 in my wallet, especially with the way the music industry is at the moment. So then that's when I started on the journey of creating my company now, Guitar Mastery Method.
So what was different? You had that kind of moment there in the store. What did you decide to do differently? Because you were already doing a lot of the things that were working at the time to make money. You were making some amount of money, just not as much as you wanted to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, over 5 years, I'd made in US dollars, like maybe 14,000, so it was broken down. It's like 30 or 50 bucks a week. Yeah. And all that was good for is for an 18-year-old who just wants to go and buy some beers, once a week when the ClickBank check come in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I was working like a whole bunch of jobs, working in a music store, teaching guitar lessons in person, doing promotional work for local venues, and I'd just do freelance like static HTML websites for people because they knew I knew how to do them. Right. So what really changed was that I had thought, if I had made $13,000 from an ebook that had just written text and audio examples, and now that YouTube had really blown up and the video was the thing, I was like, I'll just create a video course. And I thought that originally I was just creating a video course. I thought, I just create a video guitar course. Surely I'll make $1 million and I'll never have to work again.
Yes, yeah.
And so that's what made me, go into that journey. And the thing that really changed during that time as well was just my hunger for learning, because at that point I had a much bigger reason why. And the reason why was that I wanted literally to be able to make enough money from my company to be able to hire my band full time so that they could always tune up for practice, and that we'd always be available for touring and recording and everything. And then so that was what created, more than anything, the hunger. And then that hunger meant that I had to be extremely hungry for information. So I just read every single thing I could, went through every single course I could, obviously just only free stuff available at the time. And then as soon as I started making money with the company, just invested as much as possible constantly into just learning from, people at the top.
So what did you do first? And then what did you start to see traction with first?
Well, it took me a long time to get any traction, because it literally took 3 years from the conception of the idea to actually releasing the course, because I had absolutely zero budget. I had to, get some friends of mine who had, video cameras and stuff to, I said, look, if you film this, I'll pay you once it's released. And they were really cool and helped me out with that. And then, so during that process, I had to, map out the course, figure out how to do video editing, image editing, set up the payment processing and all that kind of stuff that, that some of it I knew, but nowhere near to that level. And obviously then I heard about this thing called copywriting and running Facebook ads. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to start learning all this stuff. And so it took a long time to get traction. But when I first started out, the big thing that was like, a game changer for me was Jeff Walker's product launch formula. That was like, it just made so much sense, just actually give people stuff for free. I was like, man, you're crazy, but in doing that, people saw that I had a passion for teaching, had a way of teaching guitar that actually helped them, get results. And then, so I'd always been a huge Tony Robbins fan. So I'm like, not even consciously doing it, but I'm subconsciously like pumping people up during these guitar lessons, and then they go, man, I'm getting such good results.
That's
and then
cool.
so using the product launch formula was great, and then Facebook ads turning on until I'd like nearly spent up to my payment threshold, and then I'd have to like pause the ads, wait for sales to come in. Once that money had come in, then I could pay that and then do the same thing again and snowball that slowly until I could finally actually just leave the ads on.
That's really cool. Now, if you were advising yourself today and you were in that position, just getting ready to launch the course, you'd made that decision, what would you do that would shortcut that process from 3 years down to significantly less?
I would say, number one, the way that I went about the course, like I mapped out every minutia detail. The thing is that if you know a subject, you know a subject. And, now if I'm going to create a course or a video, like a DVD, I literally would just bullet point it and speak to the camera, because it is so much better to have a conversation with somebody through a camera than, like be speaking off a script when you're teaching something that you know. And then, so if I had literally just done that, I would have shortcut it massively. And, part of the reason why it took 3 years to get to that point was obviously I was doing all these other jobs at the same time. And so I was, doing it at nighttime. But I think that's the critical part. The rest of it, it was necessary learning. And I think that another thing that I would do would be convince more people to help me sooner, with the promise of I'll pay you once it's released. Because if I could convince other people to help me with things that they knew how to do better, then that definitely would have helped a lot, instead of literally trying to learn a little piece of everything.
Now, where do you give the things away that you give away free these days? Do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, we have a YouTube channel. We don't do a lot on YouTube, but we usually put up videos to send out to our email list. And we do get a little bit of organic traffic from YouTube, but we mostly are doing paid media, so Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, Google ads, and we're just literally putting out free content and just really focusing on creating like a really, really powerful win for somebody. We're teaching guitar lessons. What does everybody want to do? They want to be able to jam out to their favorite song, right? How can we do that? How can we teach in just 30 minutes someone to be able to instantly be able to play guitar solo in any key, so that they can go and jam with their friends and this kind of stuff? And really sitting there with the problem and creating those lead magnets. They've lasted forever. Like ever since we created them, that they've lasted. I've had one lead magnet that died off. Apart from that, every single other one is never gone down in popularity as far as our paid ads go.
That's really cool. What do you use to track all of that stuff? Like, how do you know things are working, or how that you maybe wouldn't want to use that lead magnet anymore, et cetera?
Well, just literally we're looking at like the things like just our conversion rates and how much those leads are costing. And then but the only thing that we've ever had is ad fatigue, because we're just literally pumping out a lot of ads. It's funny, I play in a rock band, but I get noticed for that sometimes in the street, but I also will be, somewhere traveling around and someone will be like, hey, you're that guy who's like on my Facebook feed all the time. And then so it's, for us, it's just looking at, the fact that our ad cost is not gone up. So people are still looking for this information.
And all right, so you're primarily running ads to content first?
Yeah, 100%. It's
and then retargeting, is that kind of what you're doing?
Yeah, so we do a lot of retargeting, but the number one thing that we're doing on the front end is just pushing straight to content and just proving to people that we can actually help them.
Yeah, that's great. And then in terms of what's happened with the changes when COVID reared its head, how has that affected your business, and why and how, if at all, are you pivoting or adapting to that?
Well, it's as soon as it hit, it was like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then very quickly we started to see sales increase, and then the realization that, hey, everybody's stuck at home with their guitars and now they finally have the time to learn them.
Right.
And so we literally had a record month in April, and it's been fantastic. And then so it was just a great time for us to be able to jump into our community and just deliver more value. So I got instructors to be giving more lessons to say, hey, you guys are stuck at home, then let's keep you busy, let's keep your mind on track. And then so the members loved it, and everybody sort of came together. So on the business side, we didn't really change anything apart from amping up our ad budgets because, obviously ad costs went down and that was fantastic. Right. And then, so yeah, it was, the pandemic wasn't a good thing, but it was a good thing for business. And I say was because in New Zealand, we're COVID free at the moment. So I'm like celebrating.
Are ad costs back up for you in that niche now?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. So now when you were, because you clearly were a one-man show there for a while, you had to learn everything. How did you make the transition? What did you do first to hire your first person, and what did they do? And what were some of the takeaways for you from that?
So the first person that I hired was my video editor, Elmar, in the Philippines. And so he's still with me today and is absolutely incredible. So I went on to onlinejobs.ph and it was, went through some training on, how to hire an outsourcee. And, he jumped on board and it just instantly saved me so much time because obviously I was doing absolutely everything that there was to do in the business.
Right.
And the video editing is a very large chunk of that time. And then so that was like my first hire and that saved up so much time. And then my second hire, which was, my most significant hire in the whole lot, was Johnny, who, I'd known forever as one of my best friends and literally was a builder and could see what I was doing. He was like, man, this is cool. Like, maybe I should just come and work for you. And then so I was like, well, hey, do you want to come up at nighttime and do, customer support? So he started coming up at nighttime doing customer support. Eventually he got better at it than I was because I was trying to rush through it every single morning. And then so as he got better and better at that, he finished that. Like, what else am I doing? And then so started doing more and more. And then it got to the point that I was looking at the bank accounts going, I can't really afford to hire you full time, but I can't afford not to because things are just stagnant, and so I just took the risk and said, jump on board. We're literally at that point, I was living like on a broken fold out couch. And it was like, I used to have to, when I was teaching one-on-one lessons, I used to have to like fold it up to make room for my students to come in. And I'd be like so embarrassed if they ever found out it was actually my bed. But we had like no room in this thing, a little room in the flat that I was in, that we took the doors off the wardrobe and cut the sides off this desk so we could fit the desk in. And then that was Johnny's first office. And then so now Johnny's actually the COO of the entire company. And, we moved into an office and just got more and more hires and eventually built a team around the world.
How many people do you have on the team now?
All up, we have, including our instructors, there is 12 or 13.
That's great. And you started as not only everything in terms of the business, but you were also the product and the brand. And you've done a great job of kind of moving away from that a little bit. Would you share a little bit about kind of what your thoughts are on that and what you've done and kind of where you see it going?
So, when I first started out, I had no choice and really had no awareness of what I was doing. I didn't realize that I was creating, guitar mastering method / Charlie Wallace. And then so, as time went on, I was, got so much more involved in the business side that it got to the point where I didn't have the time to be creating the courses as much because I could see that there were other areas of the business that I should be focusing on. And then it was like, right, just the more like that, like learning what a CEO actually is and, and what a CEO should be focusing on. And then because there was more and more of, for instance, the team coming on board, it was like, right, well, if we can upskill, our team members on marketing and, start looking at creating systems and processes and, all that side of like the businessy stuff, then I can see how that's going to, like really create a big jump in the business. At the same time as I was aware of the fact that I wanted to be able to go full time with my music and hire my band. And then so I knew that if I was going to be doing that, if I'm away on tour, I can't be, teaching guitar lessons all the time.
Right.
And then so first of all, what I did is I got some instructors on that I actually met at Traffic and Conversion Summit, funnily enough. And I got them on to do, live guitar lessons inside of our VIP club, which is our monthly subscription. Nice. And that was instantly, it was a relief, because all of a sudden the weight wasn't just solely on my shoulders. And our members loved it. They loved the diversity, and they loved, they loved Will and Micah, the guys that jumped on board, our instructors. And that's still with us in teaching now. And then I made the transition into hiring a full-time instructor. My first guy, I've known him for a long time, unfortunately didn't end up working out in the long term, but it was definitely like a switch for me, because then I could understand that I can have somebody at that point, he was in the office with us. I can have somebody focusing on content creation 100% of the time. Whereas if I was doing it, it was one small piece of the pie for me. And then, so from there, we got another guy on full time. So for a while, we had 2 full-time content creators. And so now we're just literally getting people to do single projects, as well as, Eddie, who's our main full-time content creator. And the members just absolutely love the fact that he's there, and can be jumping into our Facebook groups, and then it's literally become Guitar Mastery Method, not Guitar Mastery Method / Charlie Wallace. It's not completely reliant on me now, which is fantastic, because at the end of the day, it's if I die, Guitar Mastery Method will live on, but it wouldn't have a few years ago. And then so that's the main thing that I think really needed to happen.
And do you have any concern about, a lot of people are concerned about bringing other faces into the business and making them famous, and then maybe they go and do their own thing or whatever. Is that a concern, or how have you addressed that at all?
Well, the thing is that, I just treat people really fairly. And, and it's one of those things that when there's people that I know, like, and trust, and people that I've hung out with in person. And then so it's one of those things that, I always believe that people do whatever they do in the moment because they believe it's going to, create them to be more happier, right? And then so if somebody was to ever decide that, that they wanted to leave the team and go and do something, then absolutely they can do that. We have a non-compete for a year in our contract. But even then, it's one of those things that it's a little bit of a weird thing, because it's especially when it's guitar lessons and it's these people's passion, and they're already teaching guitar lessons before they come on board. It's well, what do we do there? But it's one of those things that if I don't do it, then it's just me. So it's just that weighing up weighing it up, and it just makes sense to be having them on board than not.
And you've built the brand around the name of the company as opposed to them. So they're just really one of the instructors and like a spokesperson, so that's,
exactly.
I think that's fine. I think it's really smart, because I don't think if you don't do that, you never get away. Right. And your real passion is still the reason that you started this, which is to be able to hire your band full time, to be able to do all the things you want to do, which I think you've just recently been able to do that, full time and get into that. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we went full time with the band in April of last year. And then so things really, took off with that really quickly. We spent a few months writing, and then we went and recorded our debut EP with Michael Wagner, who's one of the most legendary rock producers in the world, worked with Metallica, Ozzy Osbourne, Motley Crue, Skid Row, and a whole bunch of others. So it was really surreal to be able to just be thrown in the deep end with them. And we learned so much throughout that process as well. So we recorded our debut EP with them in Nashville for a couple months. And then we came back to New Zealand, recorded a music video underwater for a song called Caught in the Undertow. And that took a bit of convincing to get the band to do it, but we literally trained to hold our breath for minutes at a time. We're weighted with weight belts, in a 3.6 meter deep pool with a scuba diver, we're giving us the breathing apparatus, and then he'd go away. We'd hold our breath for a couple minutes playing the song underwater. And that video's got over 1 million views now, and I was hoping that would happen, because it was a pretty crazy idea.
Is that a video that people could find? But how would they find it?
Just on YouTube, if you search Black Smoke Trigger, our band, or the song Caught in the Undertow, and then that will come up. And so we start out on a beach, and the water just comes up and up until we're completely underwater.
That's cool.
And then once we released this debut EP, we actually made the US Billboard charts for hard rock sales.
Wow.
And so I think we got 13th for that. And we're above like Korn and a few other like really big bands. So that was amazing to see. And we made 8 other charts in total as well. So that was fantastic. The best possible start that we could have had. We did a tour here, and then we just literally did one before COVID hit. And right now we're working on our debut album, and we're going to be, once the borders all open back up, heading back to Nashville and recording that with Michael again, which is going to be, it's going to be great. And then so from there, the goal is to make the band the biggest active hard rock band in the world. That is the number one goal that we're shooting for. And then so it would never have been possible if I couldn't literally have these guys working out of my home studio, because now I'm not sleeping on a broken fold-out couch. I've got this epic house with a home studio and enough rooms for everybody to come here and practice. And then so we're literally, like 5 days a week, 8 a.m. till 5 a.m. Everybody comes here. I make them do weird stuff like breathing and meditation and stuff in the morning, which, like, everybody's like, what the hell? But then, he gets into it. Everybody gets into it really quickly because, it just improves your life so much. And so it's not the way that every rock band works, that's for sure. But we're just trying to work harder than everybody else.
What, if you were going to say maybe 3 of your biggest takeaways from your business life so far, your business adventure, could you give us 3 that you think like, man, these are 3 things that really made a difference and that could help other people?
Well, I'd say absolutely. Number 1 is, the saying of like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
And I remember when I first heard that, I was like, okay, but how am I supposed to be the average of, like these huge successful business people if I want to make my business successful? And then I realized that the age that we live in, people are talking nonstop on the internet. And then so I can write my 5 entrepreneurial idols down. And if I just listen to them all day and spend more time listening to them all day, I'm ingesting their thoughts all day. So essentially I am spending time with those 5 people. And then so that's, Tony Robbins was, as I mentioned, he was one of those guys. And I just listen to, him and people like Bob Proctor as well, just every single day, just to, change my mindset, because, I never known anybody with money. So I had to really change a lot of, those, the paradigms in my mind as well. And then, so I'd say that would be like my number 1 key to get started. The second one is to spend any money that you make, especially in the beginning, on education, especially if you can get direct education with, people that know what they're doing. Because, it's just that whole be the dumbest person in a room thing. I tried to do that, as intimidating as it was at first, by flying over to the States by myself and, going into a room with people like, Ryan Levesque. And, Ryan completely changed my life with him and his team with a few pieces of advice that were just so specific to what was happening in my business right then.
Right.
And, when you're in a room with somebody who has, like gone 10 miles further than you, and you go, I've got this problem getting around this little rock at like the first step, they go, oh, that's easy, just throw it to the side, So I'd say absolutely spend everything you can to get in the room with people. And the third one would just be have a big enough why, because I worked harder than anybody that I've ever seen. I mean, I'm sure there's definitely people that would have worked harder than me in the long run.
Sure.
But I went to crazy lengths and worked insane hours and didn't sleep and sacrificed everything for a large period of years to get the business to where it is. And every single time that I'd think about going to sleep or think about quitting or think about chilling out, it was always that why niggling in the back of my head. Like, I need to do this so that I can make the band a success. And,
right.
That's the real, I was going to say work harder than anyone else, but it's too easy to lose the motivation. But if you have the why, the hard work's going to happen automatically.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. That's really a powerful trio of things for people to think about. Thanks for coming on here. If people want to learn how to play guitar or listen to the band or otherwise get a hold of you and chat with you, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Great. So the best ways is for they want to learn guitar, head to our website, guitarmasterymethod.com. If you want to listen to the band, either head to our website, blacksmoketrigger.com, or just look us up on any of the social media channels or on Spotify. And obviously with this day and age, we've got to be everywhere. So shouldn't have too much of a hard time finding us.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Charlie. Appreciate you taking the time and being with us today, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds great, Roland. Cheers.
You've been listening to Business Lunch with Roland Frasier. If you're enjoying the show, let us know by subscribing and leaving a review. And for more information, go to businesslunchpodcast.com. Thank you for listening.